I think it's safe to say at this point that the New York Knicks have a Mikal Bridges problem, and that is a huge, huge deal for a team with title contention or title aspirations this season in the NBA. I am truly concerned about Mikal Bridges and the amount that they gave up for him and the production that this team is receiving in return for Mikal Bridges at this point in his career. It's just not been good enough on either end of the court, and I think it needs to be talked about in this video, how he is, in all honesty, hurting this team and hurting their chances to make a deep run this year. Now, plenty of time left in the season. You don't want to overreact too much, but plain and simple, he just hasn't been good enough. We're going to talk about it in this video. Before we hop into it, if y'all haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Help me push towards the 1,000 subscriber mark on the channel. I'm trying to get monetized on this channel, uploading a bunch, getting up to about 3 videos a day starting yesterday, and we're going to try to stay consistent with that. So would really appreciate it if y'all are new, if you do subscribe to the channel. And without further ado, let's hop right into it and let's discuss Mikal Bridges. So first and foremost, the game that kind of got me to make this video was yesterday's game against the Jazz. 3 of 15, 1 of 7 from 3, 7 points and 3 rebounds. Just really, really bad efficiency wise. Simply not acceptable at all for Mikal Bridges. You quite simply need better out of one of your supposed best players, especially in a game against the Jazz that you should easily win. This is just not a Jazz team that the Knicks should be losing to at all. And look, does he shoulder all the blame for the struggles in yesterday's game? No, not really. Karl-Anthony Towns was 1 of 9 from 3, didn't have a good game himself at all, despite the 16 rebounds either. And he's not the only issue with this Knicks team. And let's be straight up and honest with it. The Knicks are not bad. They've had a couple of questionable losses, but they look like a pretty good team overall. The biggest issue that I have with Mikal Bridges, though, to be honest, is that he has been a net negative, especially, interestingly enough, on the defensive end of the court. I use cleaning the glass to find some advanced stats and analytics, and it turns out that this season, Mikal Bridges has a minus 13.6 points per 100 possessions effect on the Knicks this season when he is on the court. They are almost 14 points per game worse overall when Mikal Bridges is on the court, which is baffling. And the most interesting part about it is the fact that offensively, they're actually 5.7 points per possession better when he's on the court. Defensively, when he is on the court, they are 19.3 points per 100 possessions worse with Mikal Bridges on the court, which is beyond baffling for a guy who is expected to be one of the most impactful defenders in the league, and a couple years ago was not only considered one of the better bright young wings in basketball, but an elite defender, truly a defensive player of the year candidate just a couple years ago. And it has quickly gone downhill on the defensive end of the court for Mikal Bridges. He is literally in the 0th percentile for defensive players this season in on-off stats, which is absolutely baffling. I mean, his defense has just not been good enough. And let's not cut corners. It's not like just the defense has been an issue. The offense has been an issue too. Like, the on-off stats can be attributed to more than just Mikal Bridges. To a certain extent, that's not all his fault, because that takes into account the other 4 guys on the court as well. But he simply has not been good enough, and their defense has been bad when he has been on the court. But the bigger issue that I have with this roster so far and with Mikal Bridges' play is the fact that he is shooting 31.5% from 3 on 6 attempts a game, which is by far the worst mark of his career, especially since if you take his rookie season out of consideration, a career over 37% three-point shooter shooting less than 32% from 3 is not acceptable for a guy that, let's remember what the Knicks gave up to get Mikal Bridges. They gave up 5 first-round picks, a first-round draft swap, and a second, plus Bojan Bogdanovic, who will likely receive interest at the trade deadline for the Nets. He's a guy that they will probably be able to trade. Now, he hasn't played it all this season because of injury, but Bojan Bogdanovic has been a very impactful NBA player in his own right. I know he wasn't a huge contributor down the stretch last season for the Knicks, but they gave up an absolute haul for a guy who is averaging 16 points, almost 4 rebounds, and 3.5 assists a game on mediocre at best efficiency. And the most interesting part about it is his 2-point percentage is actually really good And yet he is shooting less than 1 free throw per game. And look, I get that he is in a different offensive system now, much less of a primary shot creator than he was when he was on the Nets. But he has gone from a couple years ago, 6.5 attempts a game on Brooklyn when he first got traded there from Phoenix, to now down to less than 1 a game. He is not attacking the rim with physicality whatsoever and is just failing to impact the game in so many ways. Offensively, he's not going downhill to the rim, and he's not shooting the 3-ball well. Now, outside of that, he is shooting well from 2-point range, which is good, and it does lead to his field goal percentage being relatively high despite not shooting the 3-ball very well. But you combine that with literally the worst on-off defensive stats in the entire league, and this is a terrifying start to the season for Mikal Bridges. And the biggest thing to me, the most questionable part about all of this, is they gave up as much as they did for Mikal Bridges, right? 5 firsts. So keep in mind, that's 2025, 27, 29, 31, as my dog wants to say, hi, Archer, I am working right now. I'm sorry. Point being, they also gave up a top 4 projected 2025 first for the Bucks, and a 2025 second, and a pick swap in 2028. So they gave up almost all of their tradable pick assets for Mikal Bridges. And what they could have done instead, I get that he's a Villanova alum and they're the Villanova Knicks, but look what Cam Johnson is doing this year. 19 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists a game on 50%, 42% from 3, and 92% from the free throw line. Has been legitimately one of the most efficient players in the entire sport this season. And it is absolutely baffling to me how, I mean, at 67% true shooting so far this season, Mikal Bridges' true shooting is all the way down at 56, which is below league average. They could have given up much less in terms of assets and added Cam Johnson to this lineup instead before the season, a guy who is another incredible 3-point shooter and probably at this point in his career, playing a little bit better on the defensive end of the court as well, has been amazing for the Nets this season. And instead they gave up all these massive assets and removed a ton of future trade and financial flexibility to bring in Mikal Bridges just for him to absolutely underperform massively this season. I mean, he has played so poorly. And if this continues, it is going to be a huge negative impact on the Knicks season. Plain and simple. There's nothing else to say about it other than that. I mean, you just need more, plain and simple, out of Mikal Bridges. I'm sorry about the dog, y'all. He's just got energy. It's nothing about it. He's a sweetheart. Point being, though, Mikal Bridges has just been way subpar this season on both ends of the court. And you give up that type of assets for a player, that's a superstar package. I mean, 5 firsts and a second and a pick swap and a pretty good player is the type of package that you expect to see for a top 10 player in the sport. And Mikal Bridges has quite simply been below average on both ends of the court this season. It is not acceptable whatsoever. And if the Knicks want to make a run this season and be a serious contender in the Eastern Conference, they are quite simply going to need a lot more out of Mikal Bridges on both sides of the ball. And I think it's something that needs to be talked about. He has not been good enough, and hopefully things will turn around, because I actually like Mikal Bridges a lot as a player when he's playing at his best, but it has just plain and simply not been good enough this season. With that being said, that is going to do it for this video. I hope y'all did enjoy. If you did, make sure you'll hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. I'll be back with more NBA content very soon, and I appreciate y'all. Peace.